Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Good to see so many folks already checking in the chat. If you're just getting here, drop in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you're just coming, check that chat on the very top. We have a PDF that you're going to want. I'll keep a close-up of my hands the whole time so you'll be able to see the chords, but it's always nice to have a piece of paper to take some notes on as well, or even just a PDF to get things started with. So we'll be kicking off in just a couple of minutes. Until then, I thought I'd just maybe play you a little bit of a song before we got in here. Go with our Magic Ukulele Club Song of the Month. So the great thing is everything we're going to talk about today on You Are My Sunshine is going to work over top of this song as well. The dew sang diamonds on the clover, where the moon is listening to the nightingale. And while we're lost in dreams, the world around us seems just like a Louisiana fairy tale. And the breeze is singing softly through the willows. As hand in hand we stroll along the trail. Love is at its height, enchanting us tonight, just like a Louisiana fairy tale. Is this real? This fascination? Are my arms holding you fast? Are we here on a plantation? Or could this be heaven at last? Keep dreaming with your head up on my shoulder. And don't awake until the stars grow pale. World is at our feet, and the picture it's complete, just like a Louisiana fairy tale. Is this real? This fascination? Are my arms holding you fast? Are we here on a plantation? Or could this be heaven at last? Keep dreaming with your head upon my shoulder, and don't awake until the stars grow pale. See, the world is at our feet, picture it's complete, just like a Louisiana fairy tale. little bit of Louisiana fairy tale to kick us off for today. It's at least putting us in the right key. We're going to be working on a much simpler song today. I see a lot of Magic Ukulele Club members checking in the chat here, and that's our song of the month that we'll be working on for the next few weeks. We're going to be working on You Are My Sunshine today, one of my absolute favorite songs, and we're going to be doing it in the key of F, the key I was just playing in. So the key here is that although we're going to be working on a simple 3-chord song today, you're going to be able to take these principles of chord substitutions that we're using and apply them to any tune that is in this key, including Louisiana Fairy Tale. Everything that we're going to talk about today is going to apply to that song as well. So if you haven't had a chance yet, hop on over to that link right at the top of the chat and go grab yourself the PDF for today. It's 5 whole pages long of versions of You Are My Sunshine. But a lot of what we're going to do today is talk about concepts and how we can find chord substitutions easily without using a ton of music theory and needing to count all over the place, and think a little bit more about sounds, because that's what's really important when we're playing music, right? Is not the intellectual side of things, but what does it sound like? So we're going to try to hear some of these chord substitutions today so that when we hear them in practice, or we want to find that sounds on our instrument, maybe they're a little bit easier for us to find in the future. But the first things first is, in case some of us don't know the lovely tune, You Are My Sunshine, we've got to learn that together before we can start throwing any other chords over top of it. So we're going to be in the key of F, and we're going to need 3 chords in here. We're going to need our 1 chord, our 4 chord, and our 5 chord. And when I'm talking about numbered chords like this, because we're going to use this system throughout the lesson, we're always talking about how it is in relationship to the tonic. So we're in the key of F, right? So if we have our 4 chord, we're going to count on up, and that's going to be a B flat. So we're going to start F right here. You can play regular old F. You'll see on the sheet, I have 2 open, 1, 3. And I'm actually going to get my face out of the frame here, mostly show you my fingers for most of this lesson, because that's going to be a lot more important with what we're doing. So here's the F that we usually play on uke. I like to add this pinky up here on the 3rd fret, and we'll see why in just a moment, why that might be a little bit beneficial for us. So that's our 1 chord, is the F chord. Our 4 chord is a B flat chord, 3, 2, 1, 1. If you hate this chord, well, just lift up the G string. We don't really need it. It doesn't matter. You can also just mute it, which I do a lot of the time. I'm going to play the full one today. But if you don't like the B flat, you can just play these 3 strings right here: C strings, E string, and A string. All right. And then our 5 chord in the key is going to be C7. Again, you can play whatever C7 you want. On the PDF, I have a bunch of different voicings for you that we'll use throughout this. If you know a simpler version of a chord that we're talking about, they're all the same notes. So you can play whatever one you want. So you can play this C7 if you'd like, but I'd like you to try this bar chord one. Just barred across the 3rd fret, 3, 4, 3, 3. And that's our 5 chord in the key of F. So we start on our 1 chord F, still F, and you throw an F7, B flat, our 4 chord, back to F, back to F. C7, C7 on the end here. So we can strum through it. It'll sound like this on F. 1, 2, 1. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Again, F7, put the ring finger down the C string to B flat. Make me happy. And back to F. F7 if you'd like. And back to B flat. And down to F. We stay on F here. F, C seventh, try the bar chord, and back to F. Big old C seventh, let's try it again. We're on F. It's our one chord, stay on F. F7. We go to B flat, and back to F. Another F7th if you'd like. B flat. Da. Back to F. Da da dee da. Stay on F. F. C7. Back to F. So that's our basic harmony for You Are My Sunshine. I think most of you have probably played this before, maybe not in the key of F. A lot of you groups I know do it in C and G. But F is going to allow us to do some fun little movements that we might not find in some other keys. So we're going to talk about 4 different devices that we can use to just add some movement to the harmony in this song. It's very simple. It's a 3-chord song. Yes, we have that F7th in here, but you don't even have to play the F7th if you don't want. And we're going to talk later about what that F7th is doing. So the first device we're going to look at is adding a 2-5 progression, right? So we were talking in numbers about how we're playing the 1 chord, F, we're playing the 4 chord, B flat, and we're playing the 5 chord, C7. And that's always in relation to the key. So now we're going to add what's called a 2-5 progression. So when we have that F7th in there, we're going to do what's called a 2-5 to B flat. And this sounds very fancy, but you can count up just like this. We go, oh, I want to play a 2-5. So we go B flat, C is my 2 chord, right? And if we count up, B, C, D, E, F. So we're in relation to where we're going. We're going to push ourselves more strongly to the B flat chord when we go here. So our 5 chord is going to be F7th. We already played that F7th, right? As our 5 going to B flat. Whenever we talk about any of these substitutions, we're not really thinking about what we're substituting for. We're thinking about where we're going. We're thinking about that next target. So what I want to do here is add some movement to get us to our next target. So our first movement is F, and we had this F7th to get us to B flat. So all we're going to do is extend this F7th by adding the 2 chords. So we're going to add a C minor 7th. C minor 7th just straight across your 3rd fret. We'll play this for 2 beats and then to F7th and then to B flat. So our first little bit can sound like this. You are my sunshine, just hanging out now. My only sunshine. Now our 2-5-1 to B flat. You make me happy. So we're thinking about where are we going? We want to get to that B flat, and we're going to use this 2-5 device to get there. So we're thinking in relation to B flat. So we're going to do 2 strums on C minor 7th, 2 strums on F7th, and resolve to B flat. All right, try that with me. Just this 2-5 to B flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. C minor 7th, F7th, B flat. You hear how all that chord progression does, that substitution leads us to B flat because it's always about our arrival point. It doesn't really matter how we get there. As we get further down here, we get further away from what this sound of just basically F7th to B flat is. Let's try that again. This is 2-5 to B flat, and then we're going to try throwing it in the 2. 2, 3, 4. C minor 7th, F7th, and B flat. All right, so all those times we had F7th before, we're just going to play this 2-5 to B flat now. We're going to just create a little bit stronger of a motion to get us there. Now we're going to use one other 2-5 progression in here. So we're just going to have 2 different 2-5-1 progressions. The other one is in the key of F, right? So we already know our 5 chord in the key of F is a C7th chord, right? Because we play that in the tune. So what's our 2 chord? Well, F, G. Our 2 chord for our purposes today are going to be a minor 7th chord. So we're going to play G minor 7th to C7th. Whenever we had a C7th before, we're going to play that and we're going to insert it somewhere else as well. So let's just look at how to voice this. We could play this down here. Open 2-1-1. to our big old C7th. But remember, we were using this C7th up here. So I'm going to use a G minor 7th that's closer. So I'm going to play 3-5, 3-5 to C7th to F. So try that with me, 2 beats apiece. So G minor 7th, 3-5, 3-5 to our C7th bar chord to F. And let's just hear that sound of that 2-5-1 in F. 1, 2, 3, 4. C7 and now F. Right, here it's the same motion, but we're doing it in a different voicing now. So let's try that again. So G minor 7th, 3-5, 3-5 down to C7 to F. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 beats apiece. C7 and then F. All right, so wherever we have a C7th in You Are My Sunshine, we're going to play this now. We're going to substitute this 2-5-1 in F instead. We're going to use it in a couple other places. So if we look at this first line, this is a great thing that you can do if you're stuck on one chord for a long time, is get away from that chord and come back to that chord. And 2-5-1 is a very simple way to do that. So for the first line of the tune, instead of playing, shine my only sunshine, in that second measure, we can put in our 2-5-1 instead. So either you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. All right, so it still works with our melody in here, but we're just creating a little bridge to get us back to F, so we're not strumming it for 3 measures straight. Let's try just those first 3 measures of You Are My Sunshine. So we're going to play F for 4, 2, 3, 4, G minor 7th to C7th to F. Let's try that again. So here's our F, 2, 3, 4, G minor 7th, C7th to F. All right, and those 2 licks we just had. So let's go back to our one to get to B flat. Remember where we had the F7th before? We're going to substitute that other 2-5-1, right? Our 2-5-1 targeting B flat. Always think about where you're going, not where you're coming from. So C minor 7th, 3-3-3-3 to F7th. That one that we already had in there. And that's going to land us on B flat. So we're going to walk through this nice and slow. All we're doing is we're adding these 2 little groupings of chords here. So we're using it in 2 ways here, this 2-5 substitution. We're using it to get us to our next chord. When we're going to that B flat, we're using the 2-5 to provide motion. But we're also using this when we're stuck on a chord for a long time. We want to sidestep away from for a moment and come right back, just to add a little bit of interest and movement to the harmony instead of staying in one place the entire time. So I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. It's the same harmony. We're just adding these 2 groupings of 2-5s, and it's going to sound like this. We'll go through it a couple times. We're starting on F, 2, 3, 4. So we have F, 2-5 to F. So G minor 7th, C7th, back to F. Here comes our 2-5 to B flat. So C minor 7th to F7th. Now we're on B flat. We're going back to F. So let's do the 2-5. G minor 7th, C7th, back to F. And now we get right back to B flat again. So C minor 7th, so that same 2-5, F7, we land on B flat. 2. And we're going back to F. So let's throw that 2-5-1 in. G minor 7th, C7, and then to F. I'm gonna hang out here for a minute. And we're at Please Don't Take. Now let's do our 2-5, G minor 7th to C7 to F. We have a C7 at the end, so we're going to play our 2-5. We're back to the top. I'm going to sing the melody and call out the chords at the same time. So on F, da, ba, da, da, to F. We're going to B flat. Here's C minor 7th. Bo, da, da, B flat, D. 2-5 to F. B, da. Here's our F, 2, 3, 4, 2-5 to B flat, C minor 7, to F7, ba, da, ba, de, da. 2-5 to F, ba, da, da, dee, da. I'm gonna hang out here for a minute. Ba, da, dee, 2-5 to F, da, dee, do, da, dee. I do it without calling it out, just so we can hear what this sounds like. Ba, da, do, dee, da. Ba, do, da, dee, da. 2-5 to B flat. Ba, da, 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 da. B, da, da, dee. Here's our 2-5 to B flat again. Ba, da, 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 dee. 2-5 to F. B, da, da, dee, da. Boo, do, dee. 2-5 to F. Boo, da, dee, da, dee. So this is just one little substitution that we can do. This is a really common one that you're gonna find, especially in jazz. There's a lot of 2-5-1 progressions. So how do we see this? Well, when we get to in You Are My Sunshine, whenever we have a dominant chord, just a regular old seventh chord, not a minor seventh, not anything like that, just a regular old dominant seventh chord, we can substitute this 2-5-1 progression. And with every substitute that we have and that we'll talk about, it always comes with the caveat of, does it interfere with the melody? Does it support the melody? Substitutions aren't about just playing a bunch of chords. They're about getting us where we need to go in a unique way, but also doing what's good for the melody. And we're going to do one in here that's a little rough sounding. And part of this is you'll get your own concept of how much dissonance you like in your harmony. I like a lot of dissonance in my harmony, but some of these chord substitutions might not sound terribly great to you. And sometimes it's you just haven't heard it enough times. And I should say that all the substitutions we're going to do today, 2-5, we're going to do secondary dominance, tritone substitutions. This version of You Are My Sunshine, I didn't really make this up. This is coming almost entirely off of a Ray Brown recording of the song from his 3-dimensional album. He does it in E flat, not in F. But you should go and listen to that, because this is actually a very popularly reharmonized song in jazz, because there's so much that you can do with a 3-chord song. And it's a great way to look at chord substitutions without being in the heart of like really dense, meaty harmony like you might find in some jazz tunes. Taking 3 chords and saying, hey, what can I do with this? Will help your ear develop what these chord substitutions sound like and what you like the sound of, more than just throwing them all over an already complex tune. It's always great to come back to simple things. So you can go listen to that Ray Brown trio recording, which I think is a really phenomenal look at some really great ideas you can do. So if you look at the PDF, that's exercise 1, is how can we add a 2-5? And now we're going to start adding on top of the 2-5. We've started adding movements. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about those other chords in the key. We're in the key of F. We said we're using our 1 chord, our 4 chord, and our 5 chord. What about like the 3 and the 6 chord in here? So what is that in the key of F? That's our A minor chord, or A minor 7th. And our D minor chord, our D minor 7th chord, if we want to extend that chord a little bit. But here's the secret I want to tell you. When I'm thinking about a 1 chord in any key, so we're in the key of F right now, I know that the 3 chord and the 6th chord share a lot of DNA in common with that 1 chord and can be substituted for it, as long as it doesn't mess with our melody, and nothing is going to work all the time, but they're going to work. And let's look at why, right? So if we take an F major chord, 2 open, 1, and put your pinky down the 3rd fret of the A string. Let's use this voicing. Right, so here's our F chord. We go, well, why can I substitute a 6th chord for this? A D minor 7th. Why does that work? Well, put your ring finger down on the 2nd fret of your C string, there's your D minor 7th chord. Lift it up. There's F. Here's D minor 7th. They're only one note apart from each other. And in fact, the entire F chord is contained within the D minor 7th chord. And even further than that, a D minor 7th chord can also be an F 6th chord, depending on what we're doing in music. It's the same grouping of notes. So the 6th chord can almost always be substituted for the 1 or added in a progression in addition to the 1 chord. And it's just going to add a little bit of flavor, right? So when we see a 1 chord, we're hanging on this F, I could go, right? Can add that in there. It can be an F minor. It depends what your bass player is doing. It could be a D minor 7th as well. D minor 7th or F 6th. On uke, I don't concern myself. We say these are very related chords, right? And then we had that 2-5-1 in the next measure. So what we're actually doing is we're creating a 1-6-2-5 progression over You Are My Sunshine. So where were we going before? My sunshine, my only sunshine, right? That was our original first line. Now let's hear it with that 2-5 in there that we already had. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Then we add the 6th chord in the measure with the S. So you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. We're just adding that movement. The 1 and the 6th chord are really the same exact thing. This is just the minor version, right? This is our relative minor of F. But I think of these as absolutely interchangeable. When I say 1 chord, I go the 6th chord is going to sound really nice. And in fact, even more than a major 7th most of the time. Now, what about that 3 chord in there? So we said the 3 chord can also be substituted for the 1 chord. Well, why is that, right? That's what we always want to ask ourselves is why? Well, here's our F chord, right? Here's our F chord. Put this down again. 2, open, 1, 3, or 2, open, 1, open. That's fine. 2, up to you. And all I want you to do is lift up that F. There's an A minor chord. Again, 1 note difference from it. So this A minor 7th can really be thought of as an F major 7th chord. An F major 9 chord is really what we might be insinuating there. But what we know and what we want to keep in our minds, when we see a 1 chord that's hanging out for a while, we have our 1 chord, our 3 chord, and our 6 chord, because the 3 and 6 chord are just 1 note away from our 1 chord that we can add in there if it works well for the melody, and we can start to add a little bit to the line itself. So if we look at this first line, we're going to set it up by doing now, instead of 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, we already added our 2, 5, right? So from here on out, we're just going to add to the progression that we made in the last one. So our 2 5s are still here. So we're going to do F, D minor 7th, then our 2 5, G minor 7th to F, and back to F. All right, that's our first line, then 2 5. And then we're going to add that 3 chord in a little bit later. So let's try just this first line of You Are My Sunshine, see how it sounds by adding this little 6 chord in here. And then we'll see where else we can put that and the 3 chord in this too. So starting out with F, 2, 3, 4, F, D minor 7th, G minor 7th to C 7th, and back to F. And now 2 5 to B flat. What's that? C minor 7th, F 7th, over to B flat. Do that. Nothing changed on this line. 2 5 to F. Ba dee da dee. 2 5 to B flat. Same thing. Ooh, da da dee da. 2 5 to F. Ba dee da dee da. Now here, remember, we're stuck on F for a while when we get to this part. So let's add some of these other chords in here. So we're going to go F for 1 measure. And then we're going to go to D minor 7th. All right? That's right. And on the very last line, please don't take my sunshine away. Take my sunshine away. We're going to use that 3 chord since we haven't used it yet. let's take this A minor 7th. I'm playing this voicing here, 2, 4, 3, 3, 3, 6, D minor 7th, 2, 5. So what we're going to play. So don't take my sunshine away. What's key is our initial harmony here is please don't take, just F for that measure. And now we're going to use our 3 chord and our 6 chord, our A minor 7th and our D minor 7th, these two other colors that we can use in place of F, our 3 chord and our 6 chord, to substitute for that F chord. All right, so A minor 7th, D minor 7th, and then we have 2, 5, back to 1. All right, so in that first line, we're going to add our 6 chord in here. So we got our 1, 6, 2, 5 progression, one of my favorites. Right, and then towards the end, we're just going to add them in. So let's try this entire little section. This is exercise C on the PDF. We're just adding in the 3 chord and 6 chord, which we want to think of as not separate chords in the key necessarily, but colors that we can play over top of the 1 chord. When we see an F, we go, okay, D minor 7th and A minor 7th can be really nice sounds on here too, that are just going to elicit a different sort of sound, a different sort of feeling. That last line, when I play, don't take my sunshine away. When we get this A minor 7th, instead of this, don't take my sunshine away, it gets a different feeling for us. And that's what these sounds are about, chord substitutions. Getting from point A to point B in a different way and finding a new sound for yourself. So let's look at this. We'll play it through a couple times. We're starting on F, D minor 7th, G minor 7th, C 7th. And then we're rolling on. Nothing changes till towards the end. So 2, 3, 4 on F, F, D minor 7th, G minor 7th. That's our 2, 5 back to F, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5 to B flat, C minor 7th to F 7. Now over to B flat, 2, 3, 2, 5 to F, G minor 7, C 7 to F, 2, 5 to B flat, C minor 7 to F 7, over to F, B flat, sorry, 2, 5 to F, G minor 7, C 7 to F. And here's our 6th chord because we're bored. D minor 7. Now up to A minor 7th, D minor 7, G minor 7, C 7 to F. Good. I have a question about the A minor 7th here. Don't play it. If you're having trouble with it, play everything all open as your A minor 7th. We're not worried about the hard chords today. We're worried about finding those sounds. So this A minor 7th is tough. Play all open or just play a regular old A minor and you'll be good to go as a substitution here. The easier ones for this, because we're trying to get the sound in our ear, and that's what's more important than fighting the new chords for this exercise today. So let's try that from the top one last time before we add a little bit more to our harmony. 2, 3 on F, D minor 7th, G minor 7, to C 7th, over to F. 2, 5 to B flat, over to B flat, 2, 5 back to F, back to F, 2, 5 to B flat, now B flat, 2, 5 to F, D minor 7, now that A minor 7, now I'm going to sing it just so we can hear how this sounds in context, because that's what's important. Ah, my sunshine, my only sunshine, make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So we're just starting to add a little bit more to the harmony. Hear how those ideas of the 3 chord and the 6 chord, we have a 1 chord, start to add a little bit more to this. So now we have our 2-5-1 progression. So we know when we see a dominant chord, so regular old 7th chord floating there, we can substitute that 2-5 progression if we want, just sort of elongate that 5 chord. And when we see a 1 chord and we're stuck on it for a while, which happens a lot, it's the most important chord in a key, we're going to see a lot of 1 chords, knowing that we can take the 1 chord, the 3 chord and the 6 chord in a key and start to get on there. And so I just mentioned in the comments, the blue moon progression, right? 1, 6, 2, 5, blue moon, da da dee da da dee, but da 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 da. Right, we hear these chord progressions all over the place, and that right there is such an important thing. When you hear one of these sounds that we're doing, saying, "Hey, I've heard that before somewhere." Because we're starting to relate those sounds in our head to what's coming out of our instrument. When I hear a 2-5-1 progression, you know what I think of? When I hear this, well, every honeybee fills with jealousy. When they see you out with me, I don't blame them. Goodness, no. I hear honeysuckle rose because that 2-5 progression is just what underpins that entire A section of the tune. And you'll find that there's songs that you relate each of these sounds to. And the faster that you're able to do that, the more you'll be able to use them in other contexts. Because we hear them in one place, we can use them elsewhere. So we have a couple more things that we're going to add to this, right? So then we already have our 2-5 progressions. We have some color sounds that we can use on the 1 chord, our 3 and 6. So now we're just going to add a couple diminished chords. And diminished chords can do so many things. So I reposted this video in the comments. I'll put a couple links to my diminished harmony lessons so you can understand how much you can do with a diminished chord and how you can understand a lot of these concepts that we're talking about, these chord substitution concepts through diminished chords, which I think is really important. But we're going to add a few of these in. We're just going to use a couple because we're adding to the harmony each time. So we're not going to take away a lot of these devices we already had. So where can we put a diminished chord here? Well, honestly, just about anywhere that there's not a 1 chord, we can put a diminished chord. But what we're going to do is we're going to do it in the back half of the song. We're going to use 2 diminished chords in here. And the great thing about the diminished 7th chord, if you know one shape, you know them all. So we're going to use the one on the 1st fret, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're also going to use the one on the 2nd fret, 2, 3, 2, 3. And we're not going to get into the theory of this, but the important thing that you need to know here is that we can use all 3 diminished chords within any given key, and they will take us to a different spot in that key. And it's very beautiful that there are only 3 diminished chords on the instrument. And if you play them, they're going to take you somewhere that you need to go in a song. You'll get used to where finding that right place is. So where are we going to use this? I'm going to play it. I'm going to point out the diminished chords because we're not going to use it in the first half of the arrangement. So this is exercise D on our sheet. The sunshine, my only sunshine, make me happy when skies are gray. Here comes our diminished chord in a minute. Here goes. Never know, dear, how much I love you. So where am I putting this? I'm on the 4 chord. Right, this is when I get no, dear. 1st fret diminished chord, a B diminished chord here. What am I doing? I'm walking from the 4 chord back to my 1 chord. I'm going. So this chromatic diminished chord, we're on the 4 chord, we're stuck there for a minute, but we're coming back to 1. Throw this diminished chord in there, and it's going to give you half step movement or 1 fret movement to get to our 1 chord. Listen to how this sounds. Hear how it leads to that. And that's why I'm playing low G today and not high G, so I can point out some of these bass movements that are happening. But this sounds just as cool on high G. It doesn't matter whether you have the bass movement in here at all. And then we're just going to add one more diminished chord. It's the turnaround at the very end. So when we get to, they'll take my sunshine away. Remember that when we first started, when we land on away, hang out on F, play a C7. Well, we know that for that C7th, we can do 2-5, right? So we do G minor 7th to C7th. So what about this F that we're stuck on for a bar? Well, we're moving. Diminished chords are moving chords. So we're just going to play our 2nd fret diminished as an F sharp diminished. So we're creating what's called a turnaround. It's a chord progression that gets us back to the top of the tune. So, away, diminished, you are my sunshine. Hear how that just so smoothly gets us back here. So these little last 2 measures of the form that we have in exercise D, where we're using this diminished chord, this little progression is an important one. And in fact, we could even use this for the first 2 bars of the tune if we wanted. Oh, my sunshine, my only sunshine. These diminished chords can be used all over the place, but in our progression, we're just going to use them twice in here. The important one is when we're stuck on the 4 chord, going back to 1, put that diminished 7th chord as a bridge. This is a wonderful little thing that's borrowed from blues harmony, this sharp 4 chord. And you're going to see it all the time. This actually crops up in a lot of tunes. All right, so let's try this exercise D from the top. So we're starting out with our 1, 6, 2, 5. Everything's the same till we get to our 2nd 4 chord. And then we're going to use that chromatic diminished chord to get us up there. So we start out on F, 2, 3, 4, F, D minor 7, G minor 7, and C 7th to F. 2-5 to B flat. We're going to remember that by the end of this lesson. Here's our B flat. 2-5 to F. You know that. And then F. 2-5 to B flat. But here comes our diminished chord. So we're land on B flat. 1st fret diminished. Now F. D minor 7th. All the same. Here's our other diminished chord. F. 2nd fret diminished. 2, 5. Let's try it again. Da da. Ba ba do da dee da. To B flat. Boo day. Da dee. Ah, it brings us back to F. Do do. 2-5 to B flat. Ba do da da da. Diminish. Da da dee da. How cool is that? Love that diminished chord. Ba da 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 dee da da dee. Diminished walk up, 2nd fret. And we land right back on F. So always think of these diminished chords as where am I going, right? And what I'm doing. If I want to take a diminished chord and go somewhere, well, I need to be a half step away from it. There's why I want my F chord. So I need to find a note. Right? Same thing with when I'm doing F to F sharp diminished at the end here. I'm creating this chromatic line. I'm creating that nice sound. What we're doing with diminished chords for the most part is creating what's called chromatic movement, just 1 fret movement within here. And you always have a 66.66 chance of hitting a diminished chord that will work in any circumstance. So take that chance. If you want to just start trying some fun substitutions, throw a diminished chord anywhere you want the harmony to move and see if it takes you where you want to go. And 2/3 of the time, it will. That's the beautiful, beautiful thing. We got 2 other devices that we want to talk about here before we wrap up. So the next one is something that we use a whole lot, and we're just going to use it in one instance. I'm sorry, two instances in this tune. Again, in the back half, our first half is starting to sound pretty good already, I think. So we're going to just start looking at the back half of the tune and what we can do. So this is exercise E on our page. These are what are called secondary dominants. So when we have a secondary dominant, remember our 2-5 progression, we can target things, right? A dominant chord is always targeting something. So if we're going to any old chord, we can always take the 5 chord that gets us there, right? The 5 chord is the chord that moves us places. So just like in the beginning of the tune, where we go, sunshine, we're on F, my only sunshine. Then you go F7th. Where'd that F7th come from? There's no F7th in the key of F. F7th is coming from the B flat chord that we're targeting. This is our 5 chord in B flat. That's why we have this F7th. This F7th that we play in the basic harmony of You Are My Sunshine is a secondary dominant. We already know that sound because we've already used it in the tune. So now we go, well, where else can we use this? And there's a few places we can do it. So again, we're going to look at the second half of the tune. I'm going to show you my secondary dominant. This is one of my personal favorite ones because it sets something up really cool. So we start out the same, right? My sunshine, my only sunshine, make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear. Here's our diminished chord. Now listen. Much I love you. So remember how F and D minor 7th were saying kind of the same chord, right? In the way that we think about them. So how do we differentiate them? With a secondary dominant. So that part, I love you, that part that we have, we can throw the secondary dominant to our D minor 7th in here. So what is that? D, E, F, G, A, a big old A7th chord. So we're going to go F, A7th, D minor 7th. So 2 beats on F, 2 beats on A7th, then 4 beats on D minor 7th. Play this with me and check out how this sounds, because before we had this. We had nice, but if we throw the secondary dominant in here, that D minor 7th becomes so much more of a D minor 7th because we've set it up to be something differentiated from the F. So we get, all right? And if I'm on low G, I might play that A7th as 2, 1, 3 open. I should play it like that. So try this with me. 2 beats, F, A7th, and then D minor 7th, and just listen to how this sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hear how it changes, not just the character of the F chord, but the character of the D minor 7th chord. That now brings something new to the piece. I love you. Instead of I love you. I love you. That's a nice little movement chord here. And this, knowing these secondary dominants, right? We're counting now. That's how we start doing these things, is counting. This is one of the reasons to memorize your circle of fifths and fourths, because it tells us dominant functionality, where we're going around that circle gets us our strings of secondary dominants. And if you go one further back, you get your 2, 5. So if we were in, we're going to D minor, right? So 4th back here, A7th, went back one more, we'd actually have an E minor 7th, or 2, 5, 1 to get here. Knowing the clock is important. So the other place we're going to throw a secondary dominant is right after it. Remember, after that D minor 7th, we went A minor 7th, and then we went to D minor 7th. I'm going to play a D7th instead. Please don't take my sunshine away. So instead of D minor 7th, I'm playing D7th. Now, why is this a secondary dominant? Because what comes after it? Our progression is A minor 7th, D7th, D7th, C7th. And what we always need to be thinking about, right? We're doing chord substitutions, not the chord we're substituting for. Where are we going? and we're going to a G minor 7th directly after this. We're just thinking G. I don't care if it's a minor 7th or any kind of chord. We know the root movement. We're going to G. So my secondary dominant to get me there is going to be a D7th. We've played D7th to G a million times on uke, right? So we can play D7th instead of D minor 7th, and it will now be a secondary dominant. Create, again, a different sound. It's not new. It's not exciting. It's just something different. So with that secondary dominant in there, lead you differently to the G minor 7th. So I'm going to play through this one. We'll do it once slow with the chords, with secondary dominants, and then I'll do it with the melody so we can really hear how this works, right? The idea is hearing these progressions and then coming back over the next couple of weeks, come back to this video and practice these along with you and see what you can hear after you've been playing these for a little bit, after you get used to these sounds in your head. All right, so we're starting on F. This is exercise, what is this? This is E on our sheet. 2, 3, 4. F, D minor 7th, G minor 7th, C 7th to F. 2, 5 to B flat. Da, 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 D. Back to F. 2, 5. Da, D, da, D. 2, 5 to B flat. And don't forget our diminished chords coming up. Here's our diminished. Secondary dominant, F, A 7th, D minor 7th. How nice is that? A minor 7th, secondary dominant D 7th, G minor 7th, C 7th, F. So we put our melody in. Now I get this little change. It's really getting to that D minor 7th that's important. Da 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 da. Ba 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 ba. Da dee da da. Nothing new here. Charlotte 2-5-1 progressions. Bo do da da dee. Diminished. Da 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 da. Secondary. Da 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 da. Ba da dee da da dee. All right. And if you have your paper there, you want to mark it up. I missed a chord in here. It's making me very sad when I play this, which is when I go F, A 7th, D minor 7th, I want an F diminished 7th in there like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. So when you play through it, play that. Play D minor 7th. Love you. Please don't take. Because that leads us to the A minor 7th. And I'm really missing it here. I hate jumping to chords like that. So our last big one that we need is the one that I feel like scares everyone. When we hear it, it sounds mystical, magical. And it's a weird sound. It's an acquired taste in harmony, and that is the tritone substitution. Now, I'm going to show you a couple ways to think about this. The main one I'm going to show you is how I think about them now after I was taught them very different ways before. Because what's happening here is the tritone substitution. We're playing a dominant chord, a sharp 4 or a flat 5 away from the dominant chord we're supposed to be playing. What does that even mean? That means that if I'm playing a C7, our 5 chord in our key, right? C7, play a sharp 4 away from this, right? So what is that? So I count up C, D, E, F, sharp 4, F sharp. So I'm going to play an F sharp 7. So instead of playing this, I'm going to play this. Yeah, that's what I'm going to play. And we go, that's weird. But listen to it in context. We put this in the context of a 2-5-1 progression. Here's 2, 5, 1, right? Here's with our tritone substitution. So an F sharp 7 in place. It does work, doesn't it? Now, why does it work? And this is the important thing. And it's something that we can visualize so beautifully on uke, which is when I take this C7th chord, 3, 4, 3, 3. The notes in here, that make me want to go back to F are these two notes right here. It's B flat and this E. It's our tritone interval. When I play my F sharp 7th chord, which you may not have played before, 3, 4, 2, 3. It's just our F 7th chord that we already played. Moved up 1 fret. What's still there? This B flat, it's now an A sharp, and this E. C 7th, F sharp 7th, C 7th, F sharp 7th. They're not just a tritone away, but they share the tritone interval with each other. The two what are called leading tones that make us want to go to the next chord. So of course, we still get that resolution, right? So the reason this works, if I went to an F6, it might sound a little bit nicer. We'll talk in the next section about how we smooth some of these out. What we're doing right now is a little bit clunky at times. So we have the tritone substitution. We can think a sharp 4 or flat 5 away. We can think of the chord that shares the tritone with the chord that we are playing. Are either of those things that you can actually think of when you're in the midst of playing a song? Maybe you can. I can't. That's a ridiculous way to think about it. It's great for understanding what's going on. We want to understand this interval is shared. What do we think about with chord substitutions? Not the chord we're substituting for, where we're going. We're always thinking about this is a new pathway to get to our landing point. So if I'm going C 7th to F, and I want my tritone substitution, I'm not thinking tritone away. I'm not thinking what chord shares it with this. I'm thinking one thing. I'm going to play a dominant 7th chord, right? Just 7th chord, a half step above where I'm targeting. I want to play an F. I want to target an F. My tritone substitution for the dominant chord to get to F is an F sharp 7. That's it. So if I want to target a C, right? I could think, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Well, no. Just think a half step above. It's a C sharp 7 or a D flat 7. It's the same thing. So when you're thinking tritone substitution, just think, well, I'm approaching chromatically. I'm coming from 1 fret above where I'm going. This is why we want to think about targets more than actual replacements of chords. And this is a lot to think about. So with the tritone substitution, this is something that, as you said, took me a while because I didn't do it enough in practice when I was learning this, and I didn't recognize it in practice. So what you want to do is when we take this, I've marked on the page every single one of the different substitutions we did on here. So when we play the tritone substitution, get used to that sound and see where it's targeting. That's what you want to do. So where are we doing this? We're doing actually exactly what I was talking about. We're going to play a G minor 7th, F sharp 7 to F. We're going to use it. We can use it in any of our 2-5 progressions in here. We're going to use that tritone substitution. So we're going to use it 2 times in here. We're going to have a fun one we haven't played. So in the first line, we had played this. And we're just hanging out on F, right? I'm going to throw a tritone sub in here, but we're not substituting for anything. I'm playing an F. No, but we're thinking about where we're going. Where are we going? C minor 7th. What's my tritone substitution? D flat 7th, a half step above. So I'm going to play this. I'm a sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy. Hear that? The tritone sub is an acquired taste, not one that you want to use all over the place, but it's a specific sound. And then we're going to have this walk down here. So I'm just going to play through this because we're coming up on the hour now, and I don't want to go too far over. But I'm going to play through this tritone substitution one, and then we'll get to the last little bit. So listen for these tritone substitutions. I'll call them out as we're going. So I said, harsher sound, but they get us where we're going in a very unique way. My sunshine, my only sunshine. Really harsh. You make me happy. Now I'm going to do a tritone sub over this 2-5. When skies are gray, Never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Right, so that has that sound of that tritone substitution. Now they're harsh. So the last little thing we would want to do, these are just exercises in finding these and starting to hear these. So if I was actually going to play, this is not how I'm thinking about anything in the moment. Again, I'll link in the comments when this video is reposted to some of my diminished harmony lessons, which is more how I think about these things. But it's important to understand it in this way too. Looking at a simple tune and saying, well, what can I do with this? How can I make this more fun? How can I give it more life? And there's nothing wrong with a 3-chord song. I love 3-chord songs. I will happily play 3 chords all night. But if you want to challenge yourself, this can be a great way. And I think, to me, this is a better way to start looking at these concepts than, again, to do it over top of larger jazz standards with more complex harmony. Look at how these things relate to sounds that you already know. How do the 3 and 6 chord relate to the 1 chord to give us those extra colors? How does the secondary dominant get us somewhere? Well, we use that all the time already. And when we start to recognize these sounds, we can use them more. So the very last exercise that I have on here, way too many chords for us to go over. But what I did here is just add a couple extensions to the chords. And you'll see that when I play it this way, suddenly those tritone substitutions aren't so jarring. They're just cool little changes because we start to think about voice leading. This is, of course, the most important thing is where we're going to, how we're getting there, and in a nice, smooth way. So we might end up playing something like this. My sunshine, my only sunshine, make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Maybe something. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, much I love you. Don't take my sunshine away. Oh, my sunshine, my only sunshine. Make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear, how much I love you. Just don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear, how much I love you. Just don't take my sunshine away. There's so many things that we can do here with just thinking about these basic chord progressions. And you got to have some fun with this, but try writing your own little arrangements of basic tunes that you've been playing for a long time. Don't start doing this on just tough tunes, or it's going to be really hard to figure out all these sounds we're looking for. So everyone, thank you so much for hanging out and watching. If I know there's a lot of Magic Ukulele Club members here, so thank you so much. If you're not a member, please join us over there. We get to put all this stuff to use over jazz standards every single month. We have, oh my gosh, I think about 400 lessons now. You could just watch the channel for a solid 3 months on, and I think you might not get through everything at this point. But thank you so much for hanging out and just simmer with these concepts for a little bit. This is a lot to take in an hour, but the key takeaway is listen for those sounds. Don't think too much about the heady what's going on in music theory. Learn the sounds, and then you'll start to understand the other things. Have a great weekend, everyone. See y'all soon.